Legal or illegal? It's not a surprise that more and more buyers in British Columbia are looking for that mortgage helper when they're purchasing a home because the prices are record high and that stubborn interest rate is just holding it really, really high as well too. My name is Sergej from neuHouzz team. Let's talk today and piggyback on the previous message from last week about the co-ownership, how people are getting together, strangers, and actually starting to purchase the property as complete strangers because of the affordability. And therefore, when that happens, you have to have two kitchens, do multiple bathrooms on multiple levels and etc. So, but there is a huge caveat with all of that. You have to make sure that those suites are conforming or legal, and that's a huge thing. So guys, today's message is to do your due diligence. Whenever, if you are a seller, if you're a buyer, you have equal amount of due diligence. For instance, if you are a seller and you lived in the property for the last 30 years, there was a kitchen in the basement with the sink, with a gas stove and a bathroom in the bedroom, that doesn't mean that that is a conforming legal suite. When you put that kind of a property on the market, you have to ask your listing agent that you going to work with, or take it upon yourself and go to municipality, find out, pull a city file on the property, check if there's permits that's available for that, then do further due diligence, make sure that the zoning allows to have a secondary suite, and all of that is extremely important. If it checks out, building permits were pulled, the suite is legal, all good, go ahead and list it. Don't have to worry about that. If buyer's agent or the buyer asks you questions, you know the answers. Now, what happens if you don't have the documentation, and if you now starting to believe that the suite is non-conforming, and even though for the last 30 years that you lived there, you rented it multiple times over and over, but when you're selling it, now it's a bit of a predicament. You have to do the following things. First of all, you have to disclose it in a multiple listing contract to the public. Secondly, you have to present a document and sign a document that it's a latent defect. Now, don't get scared. Latent defect, yes, it's a scary word, scary term, but it's the suites, non-conforming suites are considered a latent defect. So just disclose that. Most of the time, buyers will make their own decision if they like it, comfortable with that or not, but you have to have that documentation. And of course, make sure that if the buyer is inquiring, you are disclosing that before you actually enter a contract of purchase and sale. So very important, even if you're a seller, don't just think that the onus is entirely on the buyer. And for the listing agents, my friends, my colleagues who's listening maybe to this video, is make sure that you are doing your thing, because if the buyer comes after the seller because they can't rent that illegal suite, or the city told them to decommission that, they will come after the seller. Who do you think the seller is going to go after more likely? They're going to pass that onus on the listing agent and say that was his or her job and they didn't do that. So here it is. You guys can deal between each other. Now, I hope you never find yourself in that predicament. With buyers, when you're working for the buyers, when you're a buyer, make sure you do your own due diligence. Do not trust anyone what they say. So go to the city, pull the file, get that information. Were the permits pulled? Were they approved? Were they signed off? Just because the property has maybe 2 gas meters or electrical meters, that doesn't mean that that's a legal conforming suite. Make sure that you check the title and there is no notice on title about a non-conforming suite. Sometimes we've seen that before, and all of those things is really, really important. Guys, huge amount of people in British Columbia are looking to acquire properties with suites, just because it is something that is more affordable, especially for younger families. We see it more and more. But the problem becomes when the buyer who is counting on that mortgage helper and no longer can rent the property because they were ordered to shut it down, to decommission the suite. And how does that most of the time? How does it most of the time happen? City does not send people door to door to check on legal or illegal suites. What they do, most of the time, it is complaint driven. And that means that maybe a tenant moved in or a family member moved in, and maybe they're too noisy and the neighbor doesn't like it. Maybe they keep parking too close to their shrubs, or maybe on the street where the neighbors' kids or family members or friends typically park. That's where the complaints being reported to the city. City has to act on that. They come to you, they check, they find that the suite is non-conforming. They ask you to decommission. Now, potentially, you as a new homeowner are stuck and facing the consequences where the tenant, especially if it's a stranger who is renting in your home, now a tenant is no longer able to enjoy his suite that he rented from you for a minimum of 12 months. Remember, that's a minimum fixed term. Now, if they have to move out because you no longer can provide them with a tenant in suite, there is financial consequences that you can be facing, and that means that they can come after you and ask for however many months of rent, up to 12 months, because you terminated the contract, and the real estate tenancy board will support them on that. So very, very, I guess, dicey situation that you can find yourself if it's not checked out properly. I hope this information was helpful. If you need more questions to be answered, reach out to us at neuHouzz and we'll give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Until next time, I'm Sergej from neuHouzz. Peace.